Welcome to the Strangers on the Way podcast. I am so honored to have today's guest, Evan Brown, with us. He has been in my life actually a couple of years. We went to ministry school together online, and Evan was in my smallest of small groups. And so I really just got to know his heart over some time, and I just love what he's doing with his life and how he's just passionate about men having freedom. And he's so multifaceted, so we'll dive into it. But Evan, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here. Would you start and just share with our listeners a little bit about who you are?
Of course, and thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. So I'm Evan. Um, I easiest way to put it is I just surrendered everything to God. Um, I currently work as a janitorial service, um, cleaning toilets, and I'm still ministering to people there. Um, Working on starting my own podcast, my own business. Um, yeah, that's kind of I love God, and that's where I am.
Mm. I love it. I would love to ask you, I know you made a big move to California a couple years back, and it was really like a leap of faith in many ways. Could you share like a little bit about that for people who are considering jumping or taking a risk and what that might mean, and um yeah, maybe even some things that you've learned from it?
Oh, yeah, of course. So I'm originally from our good old Midwest, Minnesota. Um, Moved down to Arizona for a couple years to help take care of some family down there. And then while I was down there, I was in first year and for school, and the Lord told me at the end of first year to just pack up my car or my pack up a U-Haul truck and just move out to Reading. And I was like, Lord, okay, like you're telling me to do something. In the process of doing that, um, it was so very daunting. Like that's just a matter of fact. You're going in. I was going alone, so I'm going into a territory I've never been in, figuratively and spiritually. But in the whole process, the Lord just stretched me and really taught me what it means to rely on Him as provider and to um just lay back and let him do what he does best, and that is to be our Father, right? And excuse me. So, um, that's in that whole process. Like I'm still out here in Reading. I'm still here in California, just waiting on the next move of the Lord. Um, and in that, it's just like He teaches us to walk in faith. And that's the big thing is just walking in faith and trusting that he's going to take care of it. I mean, he's already laying the path before us, right? The Bible talks about that. Um, and that is like the I guess the best way to just go about it is like if you're scared of something, just jump in and do it. Especially when the Lord's telling you to do something. Don't let fear stop you. Just keep going. Be like, oh, if I'm scared of something and the Lord's pointing me in that direction, I'm gonna just jump all in and see what happens because you can never outdo God when He asks you to do something.
I love that so much. Yeah, and it is like I find often there is a step of faith and then you kind of see God also move, and it's like this dance. Um, how did you know in your heart like that's what God was inviting you into to move to California? Just for someone who might be like, how do I know if it's God?
Oh, right. Um, I looked at my current life and there was I'd been building like an intimate relationship with God, and um if a thought popped into my head that was so out of character for me that was like wasn't going wasn't going to cause me damage, wasn't going to cause me harm, I could 99.999% of the time trust it that it was the Lord talking to me. Uh and so like I had just looked at my current life and I was like I wasn't satisfied. I looked at my life and I was like, you know, I looked at my surroundings in my life. I'm like, there's so much more to life when you're with God. And I was unsatisfied with what I was doing and where I was. And then when that thought popped in my head to move out to Arizona or out to California on my own, I was like, that's not me. That is definitely not me. And it wasn't like all the plans that I was starting to set up to move out to California fell through. Like I lost my job. I didn't have a house or an apartment set up. Um, I used all of my money for saving that I had in savings to get out to California. Um, so anything that was so very crazy and illogical, I knew was God because he doesn't always work in the logical sense. Um, but when I looked at my current life at the time, I was like, okay, I knew if I did not take that crazy, crazy step, I would regret. There was something inside me, deep inside, saying, you will regret it for the rest of your life if you don't go. Even if you fail at it and you have to go back to Arizona where your mom is and where your family is, um, if you don't even try going out to California on your own, you're gonna regret it for the rest of your life. And I that was just like it was something deep inside me that was telling me that. And so I went and I am so happy I did because it's been amazing.
Oh, that's so, I love that. Like, you knew, yeah, that there would be regret. I feel like I was thinking of like people on their deathbeds and they say that that's what they kind of remember, the things they didn't do. And I love that perspective of, hey, if it doesn't work out, like I can go back. And almost like it's a, like, obviously it's like bigger stakes in a lot of ways, like you sacrifice to get out there. But in some ways, there's also like, well, I can just, yeah, go back to where I was and give it a shot. And what was it like settling in there? Like, how did you know, like, oh my goodness, this is like, this was the right move for me?
Uh yeah, so settling. I spent like a week sleeping out of a U-Haul truck. Um I hopped between, Airbnbs, but I didn't, like I said, I used all of my savings to get even into California, and to get up to this little town known as Redding. Um, and it's, yeah. So I stayed in a Airbnbs. I stayed in the U-Haul truck until you know, I had to I had to return it and all that. But the the night I returned the U-Haul truck, I had put all my stuff into storage, returned the truck. I went to like a young adults group and I saw my pastor from school and I was like, "Hey, like can I stay on your couch? Because as it is, I'm gonna be on the streets. Like I have nowhere to go." And a friend of ours from our class messaged me, and he's like, "Hey, this person they're just getting over being sick, but they're in our class. Reach out to them and see what happens." And I was like, okay. I had nothing else to do, and so so I did. And I was like, hey, this is I know this is a lot to ask, but do you have a couch? Do you have a room or anything, backyard even, if for me to crash until I can get on my feet? And they're like, well, you can't stay inside because I don't know you, um, but we do have an RV. Is that okay? And I was like, absolutely. I just need a roof over my head so I can start looking for work. Um, and that family that hosted me, they hosted me for about 3 months when I first got here to this little town, and it was amazing. I adore that family, even though we don't have much in contact anymore because they've moved out of town and all that. But they saved me. Um, they they showed me they showed me a part of family, a life that I was always unaware of, but I was trying to get to. And that was a treasure. After living with them for about 3 months, working, oh man, 50 plus hours a week, two jobs, school part-time, second year, so there's a lot going on in second year. We had many book reports, many book reports. Um, Ton of homework. Um, but just settling out here, I found a great place. We're in the middle of town, easy access to everything. Um, Rented a room from a mom and a son, and they became family very, very quickly. Um, and yeah, that's just I just trusted the Lord, and He's like, "Here, I got you, bro. Like I told you, I've got you." He gave me the jobs that I had. He gave me the house, the room that I was renting, and the family I was with. So it was, yeah,
Oh, that's amazing. It reminds me so much of how it said like Jesus would go town to town and like sometimes he didn't have a place to lay his head. And it's amazing like the dependence on the hospitality of strangers, like in your story. And I just love, yeah, I love like that people welcomed you in because it's a sacrifice on both ends, I would say. And then I love also that you said like you saw it sounds like a healthy family dynamic. And to have that modeled, I think in your like 20s, teens, 20s, 30s, like it's so helpful to see like, oh, there's like because some people come all different families, we come from, but to see it done, I think the school that you're at, like family is done really well. And so to be able to be immersed in that right away is really, really special. So I love that. Yeah,
yeah, it was amazing.
so cool. And you're so brave. My goodness.
I I did not feel brave, and I was there's honestly there was quite a few nights that I'd cry myself to sleep because I was like, Lord, this is intense, especially like when I was living out of the truck,
Yeah.
living and I was going from Airbnb to Airbnb. I would cry, literally cry myself to sleep because there were those the Lord was bringing up so much upheaval and trauma that I had gone through in my life that I I thought I had dealt with, but he's like, no, no, this is like the deep down crap that you've buried for so long. Where I want to take you now, you can't have any of that. You have to get it out. We have to get it out. And um, even the first year of being here in this little town, um, best way to explain it was just deep and serious surgery, like the kind where, you might not make it out. And that's at least what it felt like. But when you're under hands of the master surgeon, you're fine. Um, but it was so stretching, and it was like when I towards the end of that first week, and I was like, Lord, I was begging him to stop because I was like, oh, I can't take this anymore, God. Like the intensity of the trauma and the fear and everything that I'm dealing with right now, I can't handle it anymore. He's like, we're almost done. That was like the second night, and he's like, we're almost done. Um, after that first week, the intensity tapered away, and just kind of instead of like an intense uh, trauma or intense healing in 1 week, it went from 1 week to then a span of a year where he continued that healing process. Um, and at the end of that first week, I was like, okay, Lord, what was really going on? Because I was having trauma response after trauma response after trauma response. And I was like, Lord, what was all of that about? And he's like, the best way he could like the picture he gave me was my family tree. He was cutting off with a chainsaw, cutting off branches that had died, that were no longer of use, that needed pruning. And I was like, oh, no wonder it hurts so much. You were taking a like
Yeah.
figurative chainsaw to my spiritual life, and my ancestral tree. And he's like, yeah, that's why it hurt.
Mhm.
Um, and there were a couple times where he'd like kind of like how he'd like poke me, be like, okay, you're not quite done yet. Turn the heat up on an oven and throw me back in. Be like, okay, now we're cooking. Like, gotta get a little hotter.
Yeah, to get the freedom. Oh, well, I know that you're really passionate about people walking in freedom and on many levels, but could you share a little bit about your story walking into freedom and then how now you're helping other people do that too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, so let's see. Yeah, I got I'm just gonna say it, right? I was addicted to porn for at the time for about 11 years, right? I got addicted to it. I think I was 17 or 18. I was pretty a late bloomer when it came to anything regarding the opposite sex.
Mhm.
Which I definitely thank my parents on that. They protected the crap out of me. Um, but I became it wasn't like an instant thing. It was just slow progression, desensitization. But I got addicted to porn at around 17, 18 years old. And I hated it. I absolutely hated it because I was like, I knew deep down it was wrong. I didn't like how it portrayed women. I didn't like how it actually affected my view on women. I didn't it made me feel gross. And um majority of my friends were women,
Mm.
right? And um I slowly saw a exodus of pretty much all of my female friends, which were all my friends at the time. Um, and so like I fought that battle alone most of the time. There's that uh if you grow up in the church or any kind of religion, there's a stigma, a shame stigma, and I battled that really, really hard. I got into this cycle of like I knew it was wrong, so I'd confess my sins. I'd pray and like really like get down on my knees and be like, Lord, I can't do this. I don't want to be doing this. Take it away. And He would like there's the grace and the forgiveness, and I felt it every single time. But then I would get stressed or triggered or whatever it was, and I'd get back into watching porn, and I'm like, Lord, I don't want to be doing this. And it started this cycle of guilt, shame, and self-hatred. And the self-hatred was a really big thing for me. Um, and so like I said, it was a 11-year struggle, ups and downs. I had good moments. I think the best I did when it came to like not watching porn was, I brought my dad into it.
Mm.
And I was like, Dad, I'm struggling with this. Like, what do I do? And he's like, okay, we're gonna work with this together. This is what I want you to do. And he told me to, write down the date of every time I didn't watch porn. I'd write down the date, stick it on my mirror in my bathroom. And he's like, I can now look at it and be like, okay, for every date, I know you're doing really well. If I see you clear your mirror of all your sticky notes, that means we're gonna have a conversation.
Mm.
We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna dress this, right? And I was like, okay, cool. I did really good. Um, I then, unfortunately, my dad passed away,
Mm.
and I was 21 at the time, on the cusp of being a man, and I lost my dad to cancer, and I was like, okay, I don't want to blame the fact that a traumatic, life-changing situation happened, but when stress happens, you go back to your old habits. If you don't have anything to replace it, you're not going to overcome it. And that's what ended up happening. Is like I didn't know there was nothing in my life to replace my dad, and then there was nothing in my life to help me healthily cope with losing a loved one. And so I got back into, watching porn and masturbating and um continue that struggle for another 3 or 4 years. It was I was down in Arizona. That happened all in 2020 or 2016 when my dad passed. Um, 2020, I moved, so it was about 4 years. I moved down to Arizona to help some family, right? And that's when I found out that, the school that we went to, I don't know if you say the name on here. Um,
Either way, yeah.
either way, okay. So, I found out that Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry had just started their online program. And I had been looking at going to on campus, but I was also helping take care of family that was sick. And I was like, okay, well, I can't just leave, right? So I started online, which was godsend. Um, I in the first week of school, I was freed of masturbation addiction. At this time, it was 11 year addiction. And so I was freed. And
Could you
one of
share
the
more
things
about that? Like in a week? Like what did that
it
mean?
was
What does that mean?
oh right. So in
Yeah.
the week of just starting school, the lessons and what the Lord was doing in my life, the changes that were happening in my like as I read my Bible, as I got around and started building community of people that all had the same beliefs and the same drive and fire for God, um, building that community, I was just like there was something that just left. That
Mm,
desire to watch porn just up and disappeared one day. And it was so sudden that I didn't even realize it until something happened in my normal life that wasn't involved with school that I was like, oh, that normally would have triggered me, but it didn't.
wow.
Right. And I was like, oh, 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 all right, okay. And the thing that really the trigger for me that was like, oh hey, you're freed from this, by the way, was I was like, okay, Lord, I had done so many other things like the the sticky notes, the keeping the track of the days, the reading the books, reading, the positive self-talk. I've done all those things to try to get over, even trying to pray away my sex drive, which doesn't work. Right.
You'll need
Um, yeah.
that.
I uh I I was like, okay, Lord, since none of those things are working, this is the last thing that I can try is like I'm gonna put my resources, I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. And he gave me I can't even find it anymore, the ministry. I even tried finding it for the podcast. Um, but it was a ministry that was helping every donation that you made to this ministry goes straight to sex trafficked victims.
Mm,
And so I started donating every month. And within the first month of starting that donation, I get an article from this ministry being like, "Hey, um, here's this article, and this article was about this mom who went to the police and filed a police report for her missing daughter. And in the article, they find this missing person, this missing daughter, on Pornhub,
mhm.
which is one of the world's biggest porn websites. And I was like, oh crap, because that was the main website that I used, and I was like, it scared Jesus into me is the best way to put it. Like I was so scared because I was like, the world says that any porn website, porn in general, they're actors. They want to be doing this. They enjoy it. That's what the world says. But in reality, they're all trafficked.
Wow.
Majority of them are trafficked victims, and they don't want to be there. They're slaves, right? And that was an eye opener for me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is bad. Like this is like, yeah, I knew it was bad, but it was a culture shock of like I no, no, absolutely not. Like absolutely not. And I've been freed from it for 5 years now. Like I haven't touched it since that day, and it's been amazing. Um, yeah.
What do you think contributed to this 5 years of freedom? Like, how has it been maintained? Do you feel like it was like kind of a spiritual type of thing? Do you feel like you like practical steps helped you? I just know there's a lot of young adults I work with that really struggle with this and they feel so much shame and guilt around it. And same, like, just like you said, they're like, I don't want to do it, but it's like they even feel like a slave to it. So, like,
Right.
what do you think's contributed to the freedom, and like, how do people walk into that, or is it different for each person? Or
It's I have found that it can be very different for each person. Um, but I think the biggest, most practical things is understanding why. Know yourself. Understand yourself. For me, the reason I don't struggle with porn addiction anymore is it was a spiritual thing. The Lord just boom freed me from it. But then there are cases like I still struggle with masturbation addiction, which is usually you think those two coincide, but it's like no, they don't coincide. The Lord, instead of just miraculously freeing me from masturbation addiction, He's like, now we're gonna walk this out together and teach you discipline,
Mm.
teach you self-control, teach you what it means to be a man of God who has self-control and he can control his sexual desires, right? So with porn, it's the most practical things that I can share is know yourself, understand what's triggering you. For me, I've cut out pretty much all entertainment, like anything anything that has even the slightest, women in a bikini. I'm like, nope, I can't watch it,
Mhm.
right? Um, anything like I stay away from all entertainment now. I don't even use Facebook. I'm not on social media. Um, so I would say for your listeners, it's know yourself, understand what's triggering you, and cut those things out. It can suck because we are so used to easy access entertainment. But if you really, really, truly, down to your soul and your heart, want freedom from porn addiction and masturbation addiction, you're gonna have to sacrifice. You're gonna have to just cut it out. If you hate it so much, why are you willing to risk it, right? And um, so I would check your music, check your entertainment. What are you listening to? What are you watching? Um, our brains don't understand the difference between fake and real. Interprets it the same. And so, like I cut out all music that wasn't worship music. Even to the point like I love orchestral music. I love Beethoven. I love Mozart. I'll occasionally listen to them, but there's something I have found so special about our minds and what we're putting into our ears and through our eyes that I protect it as much as I can. And it doesn't help that the majority of our world is sexualized. Um, and so I think I had a list of practical things I used to do. Um, I would say the for young guys, really, really pay attention to your friend groups. Are they encouraging you to, are they okay with you watching porn? Right? If they are, then that's a problem because they're going to encourage it. They're not going to keep you accountable, right? Guys, we have to keep each other accountable, right? We have to step up and be like, yo, bro, I know you're better than this. Um, you know, are you, yeah, I could keep going on, but
Yeah. I I'm curious if you have wisdom about like I think I was just talking about this with a friend. Like women, we kind of naturally group together and talk about deep things, and it's like in our DNA, I think, to connect relationally. And with men, I think it can be harder to open up about the harder stuff or like actually admit there's a struggle. How did you find like good men to hold you accountable, to believe in you, to call you higher? Like how would you say for a listener that's like maybe in a group of guys that they like to have fun with but maybe aren't like deep in relationship with, like how could they begin to cultivate something like that or like find those people? Um, any wisdom on that?
yeah, that's a really hard one. Because as like honestly, I don't have a lot of friends right now. I have a few close ones that we've been cultivating a friendship. But the Lord has had me on a very, he's like, you're on a path. And a lot of people aren't walking that path right now. So you have to do it alone. I was like, okay, that kind of sucks, but I'm gonna walk it. Um, for a majority of guys, we want that closeness. Be the first to cultivate it. Be the first to ask those questions. If it drives people away, then they're not right for you. Like be willing to and be okay with losing friends Um, my kind of I prayed this prayer quite a few years ago where I was like, Lord, bring the right people in and the or pre yeah, bring the right people in and the wrong people out of my life. And when I did that, one, it's a scary prayer. Just know it's going to work. Um, because when I prayed that prayer, not long after, I saw an exodus of all of my friend groups from my life, and I was like, wow, that was eye-opening because I was like, I thought I had good friends, but apparently not. Um, but yeah, guys, we're we want that closeness. We see it in our female friends. We're like, oh, that's awesome. I wish I had that. Be the one to cultivate it. Be the one to be like, hey, when you're with your friend groups, yeah, sure, we're probably playing video games or talking about random stuff that doesn't really matter. But take that, be courageous, and take that step and be like, hey, this has been on my heart. This has been on my mind. This is what I'm struggling with. Open the doors so the other guys around you can be like, this can be a safe place for me to talk about the hard things of life, right? And be sensitive and be and know that your friends probably want to talk about these things, but they don't think you're willing to listen. So be willing to listen and to the best of your ability, to the best of the wisdom of the Lord that you've cultivated on your own to speak into those areas in your friends' lives. Um, yeah.
Mhm. So good. There's a group here locally that of guys, young guys pretty much in their 20s that started working out together, and off the back of like doing activity together, they've started to open up about just different things in their life, good or bad, or not bad necessarily, but like challenges, and they really have cultivated this like really strong community where they're holding each other accountable. So I do think like it is possible. And it's I don't know, it's so I just feel so like, wow, God, like thank you for doing this, like creating this community, and they're really invitational and inviting others in. And so I just see so much fruit from them. And yeah, so I know it can really make a difference. So maybe people like are kind of in challenging or like having challenges with friend groups, but what about mentors? Like it sounds like your dad was a big part of helping you process, and some guys maybe they can't do that with their dads, but what about like how to find a mentor in this area that might be a bit older, like any wisdom on that?
Yeah. So first pray. Just ask the Holy Spirit for a mentor. Um, there are areas in my life that the Lord has mentored me on where he's like, I got you on this. There are areas that, the last 2 years of my life, it was my brother-in-law. He was mentoring me on finances because he's really good with his finances. Um, so pray, you know, when it comes the other things to really look out for mentors, especially with, when you're dealing with porn addiction, masturbation addiction. It's great to have a group of friends that, you're keeping each other accountable. Um, but if it's like if you're all struggling with the same thing, you can only get so far. So I would really suggest getting mentors, finding other men, older men, especially that don't or have never struggled with it, right? To help keep you accountable, but to also call you up and be like, hey, that's not who you are. Come back up here. Like, get up here. We're gonna keep going. Yeah, sure, you mess up, but to to have older men to come around you, be like, I get it, man. I get it, but you're better than that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, those probably the best way to go about it is find men, older men especially around your area or your life, and it could be it could be really awkward and tough, but even asking random men, like let's say in your neighborhood or in your apartment complex, be like, hey, this is gonna be really weird, but I see this. There's something in you that I see that I want. Can you
Mm,
mentor me in that?
mm, good.
That's what I did with my brother-in-law. I saw how he was living his life, and I was like, there's something in my brother-in-law that I'm missing. And
Mm.
so I asked him, I was like, hey, bro, can you teach me this? And he's like, it's gonna suck. It's gonna be hard, but sure, let's do it. And he was right. It sucked and it was hard, but he stuck through it with me.
Yeah, I love that so much. You had said something a minute ago about this is not who you are. I think when shame can just I see this with the young adults, like shame just gets in when they, when this recurs. But what I love about our ministry school is like we're not defined by our behavior, like that's actually not our identity. Could you just share a little bit about what you meant by that? Because
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
key for like getting freedom.
Yeah. So, shame accuses you and it says, your bad behavior is who you are, right? Or conviction, when the Lord convicts us of something, um, he's like, he's like saying, no, no, that's not who you are. It's a poor behavior that we can change, right? So, shame, like, um, it's like when you see little kids at the grocery store. Like I love kids, and so I think it's hilarious. And I know eventually I'll get to the point where it's going to be my own kids screaming their heads off at the grocery store at one point or another. Um, but you don't condemn a child for their poor behavior. You're like you embrace them and try to figure out, okay, what's going on. You know, if you listen closely enough, when kids are screaming and yelling at the grocery store, you can tell, I trained myself, you can tell what the cause is, right? It's probably because they're hungry, they're tired, or they need a diaper change, right? And so as adults, we never fully grow out of that. So shame is accusing you of poor behavior and saying that's who you are, when in reality it's no, 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 throw the shame away because you can fix the poor behavior, and that is the key, right? Like when I'm struggling, I still kind of feel shame, but I'm like, wait, wait, wait. Like a couple nights ago, I was like, Lord, I feel like a hypocrite right now because you're calling me and asking me to speak and teach and encourage young people on overcoming masturbation and porn addiction, and yet I still struggle with masturbation addiction. Like, what's going on? And he's like, have you forgiven yourself for the times you've messed up? And I'm like, oh, no, I haven't. He's like, okay, we'll start there. Forgive yourself, and then God will then bring in the grace and the mercy of his love to help you overcome the poor behavior. Shame is a killer of of all things good, all things that are like, if when you feel shame, it quickly leads to depression
Mm.
because you isolate. So if you're feeling shame and you're isolating, and this can go to, if you see someone starting to isolate, they're probably feeling shame.
Yeah.
So you can speak into them and be like, "Hey, hey, let's come back to the fold. We're covering you. We'll stand guard while you're feeling weak."
Yeah.
And
So
that's
good.
why that's honestly that is one of the reasons why having community is so important when you're dealing with shame, because when you have a strong community, whether they deal with the same problem or they don't, they can come around you and be like, we're guarding you
Yeah.
while you're weak, and in that process you can get better.
Yeah. So good. Oh, so good. Well, as we close, I know you're developing a podcast because this is a subject you're really passionate about and feel called to. Could you share a little bit about your podcast? And then I would love, love, love to have you just pray over our listeners who are battling this right now. Because I do believe, just like you experience, things can just shift in a second with God sometimes. And sometimes it's a journey that He takes us on. But I just love to have you pray whatever you feel led to pray over our listeners too. So, what's your
Yeah.
podcast called? And
So it,
yeah,
my podcast, I'm still working on the first episode, so it's not out yet. I'm gonna go by the name of Roaring Lion. That was it. It's a fun prophetic word that I got from my third year back in first year.
so good.
Um, basically I'm going to just be talking about, self-improvement, healing, all things God. Like that's going to be the center of the podcast. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much the nutshell is it's just we're going to talk about God. I hope to create a space for brave communication, brave um, conversations as well. I want to talk about the things that are really hard to talk about in our society right now.
Love that. So good. Will it be available when it's released on kind of the typical platforms, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and everything?
Definitely Spotify. I'm still working out all the logistics because
Yep,
I'm
yep,
I'm brand new to this whole thing. I'm having to completely learn how to record,
yep.
audio mix, and all of that. So it's taking me a bit longer. But my plan is to have it on Spotify and YouTube especially.
Beautiful. So, listeners, if you're listening later throughout the year, definitely check that out. And Evan, would you pray for our listeners? Whatever you want to pray over them.
Yeah. Oh man. Thank you, Lord, for this opportunity. Thank you, Lord, for Lauren, just freely letting me talk, and freely letting uh, the conversation go wherever you want it to go. Lord, I ask that you impart that freedom you gave me to the listeners that are currently struggling with porn addiction. Lord, I ask that you just, with snap of your fingers, just free them from that addiction, from that binding. Lord, I ask that you melt away the chains and the cages that are keeping your people captive, and ask that you free them, wholeheartedly free them, Lord. And Lord, I ask that you just encounter them, a life-changing encounter, Lord, that they will never go back, that they'll encounter your pure, pure love to the point of anything other than your love would be counterfeit. Open their eyes, open their hearts, and open their ears to your voice. May you be blessed in all ways, Lord. In your beautiful, beautiful name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Evan. I just love your heart so much. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.